Hello, Oldhammers. Old Man Paints here. This is the first video that I have done in an absolute age, or at least what feels like an absolute age. I hope that you will bear with me. I thought I might do a video about my recent trip to Warhammer World. Anyone who normally follows me will know that I posted a load of pictures on my story the other day, and I thought, I'd do a little video. I'm also in the Discord group for Crown of Command podcast, and Josh Van Zee mentioned the other day that he'd be looking forward to me doing a video about what I thought about Warhammer World this time when I went. So I thought I'd do the video, and here goes. I've got some notes here, very amateur, all scribbled down, and I'll just go over the points. Feel free to disagree. I'm not an expert on anything. I like to paint a few miniatures, and I like to have a bit of a chat with like-minded people. So if that's your cup of tea, stay watching, and I'll give you my thoughts. If you follow this channel, you'll know that I'm mostly a painter. Not really a gamer, so it probably might be a bit painty heavy about what I think about things, but I'm sure you'll cope with that. I will be also writing a blog on this topic, which I will post on my WordPress blog. If you don't have the address to that, it's oldmanpaints.wordpress.com, oldmanpaints.wordpress.com. So go along there and you can subscribe to my blog if you like, or just have a look. I've written quite a few posts on there on the blog section, mostly again about Oldhammer stuff, but feel free to comment. I always really appreciate anybody's comments on there. And I'll also stick, excuse me, I'll also stick all the pictures that I took at my trip at Warhammer World onto my Instagram highlights. So they won't go away, and you'll be there. They'll be there for you guys to look at if you want to. So with that, I'll just say hello to the people who've joined. Soccer at Blood Bowl and Jayhan, and who else is there? Ultra Warhammer 40k. John Amarotakis. Hello there, and one or two other people coming in now. Probably too many to be commenting straight away. I'll get cracking and stop waffling. So yeah, Warhammer World on Saturday. It was an impromptu trip. I don't live that far from Warhammer World. I live in Derbyshire in the UK, which is probably the part of Derbyshire I live in. It's probably about 30 miles away from Nottingham, so I can drive there really easily. And we'd just been in Liverpool that very same day. Big, long, hellish, hot drive, dropping my daughter back to university. And after we came back, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to jump in the car, go down to Warhammer World, pay the admission fee, and go and have a look. Now, I've been to Warhammer World once before, but I didn't pay to go in the exhibition. I was in Nottingham. I thought I'd drop in. I had a quick look around at the free stuff and went into the shop before. And this time I thought, look, let's just go and do the exhibition. It's only a few quid. It's not too expensive. It's about £7 admission, roughly. I can't remember the exact price, but I think it was about £7. Now, that's probably around about $7 if you're watching from the US. I know the exchange rate goes up and down, but probably about $7 to get in. Now, from my point of view, £7 to get into an exhibition, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, unless it was absolute crap when you got in, you couldn't complain at a £7 admission fee. I thought it was very reasonable. Something I should tell you about, actually, I'm just going to rewind a little bit, is Nottingham. Yeah, £7 it cost me to get into Warhammer World, but it may cost me a hell of a lot more, because for the third time out of 3 visits to Nottingham in the last year, I got a bloody speeding ticket. I was travelling 35 miles an hour in a 30 zone. It always happens to me. I don't know what it is about that city. It's hard to drive in. Nottingham people might disagree with that, but every time I go, I get a ticket. It's a nightmare. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Let's get back to Warhammer World. The first thing to state is there's quite a lot of parking. So if you go in your car, if you have a car, it's quite easy to park. There's, you know, it's not one of those situations where you're driving around and then you have to park on the street. Unless you go on a day where it's a big event, you can park really easily. So you can just drive there, put it in your sat nav, get there, and there's plenty of parking. It's just a doddle. They've got like a Warhammer tank outside. They call it a Rhino or something like that. I can't remember the name of the exact tank model. There's a tank. There's a big, massive statue of a Space Marine that you can go and pose with. I didn't this time. I've done that before. But pretty cool just for the uninitiated. You go in. It's kind of like a big warehousey thing. Looks a bit unusual, really. And there's a little reception desk there. In the foyer area, the reception area, there's 2 or 3 large-ish dioramas that you can, you know, spend a good 20 minutes looking at. And there's a little bit of merchandise in that area too, where you can pick up some Warhammer prints and, you know, perhaps some Warhammer type merch, which is all good. And then you pay your money and you go upstairs. Now, when you go up the stairs from the foyer, you come into an open area. It's part of the Warhammer shops. There's figures for sale. There's cabinets of miniatures to look at. There's a Forge World shop. You can go through to the Great Hall where everybody plays games. And you can go through the Great Hall to the Bugman's restaurant. Me personally, I'm nearly 50. I don't really eat out in them places, you know, where everyone goes. The beer usually isn't great. The food is usually ping food, microwave food. I ain't paying for that. I'm too tight, okay? I just prefer something a bit more upmarket. But if you just want to snack while you're gaming, or just want to quench your thirst, I would say it's pretty good. And if you've got small kids as well, you know, if you've got kids under the age of 10, you know, the type who can't really control their appetites and they must be fed, then I would suggest going into Bugman's or something like that. It's going to be absolutely perfect for what you need. I had a look around the Great Hall. Really great space. Loads of people gaming there. And I would say that it would probably be quite good fun. It's not for me. I don't game. I don't really know that many people who game. And it's not something you can just walk up to someone and say, can I play or could you teach me? Well, I certainly didn't feel confident enough to do that because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. So maybe one day when we meet in person, we'll play a game or something. But I think you're going to have to drag me to it. So I wandered around and looked in the Forge World store, excuse me, and I thought that it was fascinating, to be honest. I was amazed at some of the larger scale models. Back in the day when I was first getting into the hobby, you really did not have that range of vehicles. You didn't have that. You didn't have the big Titans. The Titans were tiny. You know, the Space Marine was this big and the Titan was this big. Now, you know what, the Titans are huge, great things, you know, that stand about a foot or 2 off the desk. They're absolutely amazing, proper scale. But so is the price tag. If you've ever bought anything from Forge World, you know it's a proper investment. All the little tanks, vehicles, dreadnoughts, etc., super expensive, in my opinion. I mean, probably worth it, because they're highly detailed models. But if we're being honest, you can get that stuff elsewhere on the web for a fraction of the price. If you're a purist, then you're going to be looking at Games Workshop only. But if you're just a gamer or a painting enthusiast and you love the models, then you probably wouldn't want to be paying Forge World prices. Let's be honest. Okay, so I just want to give a shout out to the Games Workshop staff who were on there. I thought the reception person was absolutely fantastic, really friendly and helpful. Just like told me everything I needed to know and made sure I knew I where to go and what to do. Same for the shop staff. I asked a couple of questions and they were more than willing to help me out and have a little chat, which is what you want, isn't it? If you're going on a day out, you want the staff to be engaging. I cannot stand when you go to a place and the staff are like, and they just don't know what the hell they're doing and they won't talk to you and they can't string a sentence together. You're like, if that's the kind of staff you're employing, get the hell out, because that's just, it's pathetic. And this is not the case. Games Workshop staff, they were on it. They knew what they were doing and they were knowledgeable and they were friendly. So kudos to them. What the highlight? Yeah, highlight from the shop zone. Just again, my opinion, but just walking around it. Okay, there was a couple of painting stations set up for kids, and I thought that was really cool. If you've got young kids and you want to get them into the hobby, or you just want to show them, or even have a go at painting yourself if you've never done it before as an adult, then I thought this was really a great introduction to it, because it created an opportunity for the Games Workshop staff to come and say hi and talk to you and maybe give you a few tips and things like that. I had a look at the cabinets in there as well. And anybody who follows the whole Games Workshop sagas at the moment, they will know that one of their Games Workshop's famous painters has recently left. Louise Sugden, better known as Savage Orc Guy. She paints Warhammer miniatures and she's got a little penchant for a few Oldhammer figures. And Louise paints exceptionally well. If you go and check out her profile, very bright colours. In some ways reminds me of 80s painters like Fraser Gray, people who just step outside of the canon of how you're supposed to paint a mini and paint the way they want to paint. And some of Louise's work was still in the cabinets. Bloody hell. Now, they look good on Instagram. They look good on a photo. But when you see them up close, that is some really good brushwork. It takes your breath away, really. You think, Jesus Christ, I may as well snap my brushes and chuck them over my shoulder, because some of the painting in those cabinets, it's good stuff, I tell you. And this is just the shop area. This is the free part, okay? So, yeah. It's a shame Louise has left, but she's gone on to do something else. If you look up Handgate on Google, Handgate Games Workshop videos, or look it up on YouTube, you'll find out what's gone on. I don't want to go into it here, it's not my business. But good luck to Louise and keep on painting, that's all I'll say. So, after a wander around there, after a bit of a mooch around, I thought I'd go into the exhibition. I went downstairs into the exhibition part, and the first part that you meet is a kind of little cabinet or two with a bit of Oldhammer stuff. And when I say a bit of Oldhammer stuff, I mean a tiny bit. As you know, I'm just an Oldhammer nut. I think I've got like 2 plastic miniatures. All my stuff is metal, and apart from like about 10 resin things that people have sent me as gifts. So yeah, the first bit I was like, oh, Oldhammer, cool. And we've got some old figures, and there was a diorama by McVey. And I just want to hold my hands up, okay? I'm going to hold my hands up and say publicly for the record, and you can share this, because I don't say this very often, I was wrong. like people laud Mike McVey, right? The painter from the old heavy metal days. People laud him and say, Mike McVey, Mike McVey. And I always was one of those skeptics who kind of just went, yeah, he's a clean painter, but it doesn't excite me. It doesn't really... No offence to you, Mike, if you ever see this video. It just wasn't my cup of tea. For me, it was such clean painting, so perfect, that it wasn't my style. I don't feel like I could get near you, and it just didn't chime with me because I didn't feel that I could ever attain that level. I looked at your work in that cabinet and I was like, bloody hell. Considering this stuff was painted nearly 40 years ago, that is really an achievement. I looked at those in the flesh, they looked so much better than what I'd seen in White Dwarf. I have to say it was really good. I was well impressed. And then I saw the John Blanche diorama. I can't remember the name of it now. It's something like Bridge of Death or March of Death. And it's a small diorama, probably only about, I don't know, 2 and a bit feet long. But there is hundreds of zombies and undead, and they are storming across a bridge to a castle that is held by dwarves. I don't know if you've not seen that diorama. You need to get on Google and you need to have a look at it, because it's bloody amazing. And there are quite a few blogs, Oldhammer blogs, and they have photographs of that diorama. I took loads of photographs with my iPhone 13, is it? Whatever it is, 13 or 14. And it's got a pretty decent camera on this phone. I will be stitching the photographs together to make like a big close-up, high-definition photograph of that diorama, because it is seriously impressive. Like, this is a diorama that's been done 40 years ago with a load of sort of muddy brown type figures that on their own would just look a bit crap. But when you put them all together, there's a real dynamic movement to it. It's like, oh yeah, the zombies are surging forward, being egged on by necromancers and wizards, and the dwarves are watching helplessly. And it's just, that's Oldhammer for me, you know, that it just tweaked at my heart. I must have spent 10 minutes looking at that one diorama. So good. Tiny Head Bones on my screen here, one of the watchers, has just added anything pre-slaughter in there. There's a few miniatures in packets, but there's nothing really outstanding pre-slaughter in the cabinets immediately, which was a shame, I thought. But there we go. I'm waffling on this bit, so I'm going to move on a bit. So yeah, that Oldhammer bit there, bloody stunning. I loved it. Mike McVey, take it all back. You're a genius, mate. John Blanche, you know you're a genius, John. I've met you a couple of times. Cracking geezer, but your diorama is awesome. Love it. But then that's where that ended for me. I did expect there to be an absolute shit ton of Oldhammer, because I thought it was going to be like a museum, you know, like a museum with a progression through the ages. Like, here's where it all started, and here's the first White Dwarf, and here's the I can never remember what it used to be called, something and Weasel, Owl and Weasel magazine, and here's how it progressed into White Dwarf, and here's the first figures, and here's Compendium 1, and here's Compendium 2. But it wasn't like that. And that was a shame. I thought that was a missed opportunity, Games Workshop. If anyone from Games Workshop's watching, get more Oldhammer stuff in there, you know? Just more to start with, at least. I know that it's your museum, and I know you're obviously trying to promote your figures that you do now. But I thought it was a missed opportunity for nostalgic fans, because I think also the kids would benefit from seeing the progression of how it used to be and what it is now. Okay, so that's that. I've had my moan about Oldhammer now, and I just want to move on and just talk about some of the other dioramas. When you get into I think there's 3 or maybe 4 rooms, 4 exhibition rooms. And they're all connected, you know, you go through and then there's another door and then you go through and there's another door. The dioramas in there are huge. I mean, like, you know, they start at like hip height or slightly lower and they go up to head height. And in those dioramas, there are thousands of minis. I mean, no, they have not scrimped on putting the idea for these dioramas together. These are not dioramas like we would have, like I would make here, which is like, you know, 6 inches by 6 inches, which is really a vignette, not a diorama. But these things are huge. They are really, I would say, a work of art, because there's no fucking way, excuse my French, there's no way I could put that together. Well, there is, but I don't have time. So as a hobbyist, no, that's never happening. If you work on it, I suppose, then yeah, if you go there for 8 hours a day, you could probably bang out one of those dioramas in a couple of weeks. But bloody amazing, bloody amazing. You've got to see it. Even if you're not into Age of Sigmar or that sort of stuff, you have to go just to appreciate the volume of miniatures in these dioramas. It's epic. It took your breath away. I stood there for a minute and went, I'm overwhelmed. I am overwhelmed with the figures. As well as the dioramas in the cases, there are display cases with the different ranges of figures. So, for example, and I'm going to use the old terminology rather than the Sigmar terminology because I just don't know most of it. But there are, like, you know, maybe a diorama with some Eldar in it, and then there's a case and it'll show you all the Eldar figures. So there's like the Primarchs and all the ships that they use, and any of their sort of like bosses and their Harlequins and stuff like that. And the same for all the Space Marine factions. There's one cabinet with all different like paint jobs of every type of faction of Space Marine. Now, when I was a kid, I think there was about 6 different factions, you know, like Blood Angels and Ultramarines and Space Wolves and Salamanders. That was what there was. Now, there's about 100. There's about 100 because every single faction's got offshoots, like good offshoots and bad offshoots. So my mind was like, well, I've no idea what the hell is going on here, but it looks great. So really worth going just to see that sort of stuff. My favourite dioramas in there were, there was one where there was about 1,000 ghosts, like 1,000 ghosts pouring out of a castle and populating a whole valley. And there was loads of these, like, I don't even know what they're called, but they're in Age of Sigmar. They're like green glowing ghosts. Bloody hell. I mean, I just thought the sheer volume of work that goes into it, quite outstanding. And then later on, there was a couple of battle scenes where it was either orcs or chaos versus marines. And again, you know, where do you look? It was just so impressive. So anyway, I'm rattling on about this, I know that. So I'll keep going. What have I got here? I've got something here. Too many Marines I've written. So if I'm going to say something negative, and it's kind of hard to actually say much negative. I did think it was a bit Space Marine heavy. You know, there are other figures, other miniatures are available, but there were a lot of Space Marines in those shows, okay? But overall, I'm just going to sum up now, because I'm probably boring you all to death. I'm going to sum up and say, Warhammer World, for £7, obviously, you know, if you're travelling across the world or even the country, it's going to cost you more than that. But if you can get to Nottingham fairly cheaply, if you're in the UK, £7 admission fee, and then whatever you spend there it's good value. It really is. It was a good day out. I enjoyed myself. apart from the speeding ticket I'm probably going to have to pay. But that's, you know, talking about fantasy, Sheriff of Nottingham, he's still raising taxes today, because every time I go there I get a bloody ticket. Bloody nightmare. Anyway, that's my little video. Please do keep your eye on my blog. I'll tell you the URL again. It's oldmanpaints.wordpress.com. Go along there. I'll be writing up. I'll be posting the images that I took, and I probably did take about 200 photos when I went there. I'll try this week to get the John Blanche pictures stitched together for you, so you can have a good look at those. And yeah, just give me your feedback, because I'm always interested, you know, if you want me to make these videos. I do try and just keep it real and tell you how I feel. I'm not an expert in anything, it's just all my opinion. But if it's useful in any way, I'm glad to be of service. So that's me, Old Man Paints. I'm checking out now. Give us a like, give us a share on this if you can. I'll post it as a reel or something on my profile, and give us a share, because a bit more exposure makes it easier for me to do more stuff. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you all for watching. I know I haven't called your names out today, but there's a lot of people who have come on, and the video would just go on and on. So yeah, whilst I've got you here still, this is my work in progress shelf, and I've got quite a few that are approaching completion. So watch my feed for those new works. I've got a load of zombies, I've got some elves, a couple of Jess Goodwin ogres, and a load of other stuff. But wait and see what I play out. Okay, take it easy, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll say adios now. I'm going to take this off the tripod and end the video. See you later.